Hello, juicers. Welcome to another episode. I love this StreamYard. You can just jump on here and say what you got to say and get off. I was just looking at YouTube and I was looking at Kevin Hunter, his September 17th post where he's talking about Wendy and the show and the failure of the show and him being the king behind the chair and his expertise. And you know what? It's sad to see that Wendy has put herself in this predicament. Now, her first marriage, she was very open about her first marriages. She was in active addiction during the first marriage, and she explained that she was the reason why the first marriage failed is because she isolated herself. She was just always locked in her room. She wasn't affectionate with this man because of her addiction. And if anybody that knows addiction, you can't speak on it if you haven't been exposed to it, if you haven't experienced it yourself. People that are in active addiction isolate. They set themselves apart so that they can use, and they without um, anybody else's input or negative, input about what it is that they're doing. So that's just a given. So Wendy was very honest about how she was the one that was caused the marriage to end. Nobody within their right mind, in their rational thinking, logical thinking, wants to be in a marriage where they are secondary to an addiction. And people that have an addiction um, become very irritable and have drastic mood swings when they're not able to do what they want to do, or when something they feel is in front of or preventing an obstacle to them wanting to use. It monopolized the entire existence of the person that is in active addiction. It wouldn't be addiction if it wasn't. It is a barrier to a very functional marriage. Now, Kevin had more power in this situation because he was married to her and he seen an opportunity to live a better quality of life if he can manage his wife. This other man didn't want to put up with it. He took the outs. He wasn't going to try to fix someone that can't be fixed. And Kevin soon found that out. It's not until the person that's in the addiction decides whether or not they want to be delivered and they want recovery. No matter how you try to prop them up and fix them and manage them, they cannot be managed because there's something that they want more than they do a job or a marriage. They want to use. That's period, point blank. There's no other way of looking at it. Yes, Wendy had talent. She can do a monologue for 18 to 20 something minutes. Okay, yeah. She's one of the few people that can do that. I haven't seen anybody yet that was able to master that. But had she not had someone like Kevin behind her, pushing her forward, she would have ended up the way she's ended up today. Long time ago. Long time ago. You got to give Kevin some credit. If you're going to say that Wendy had a successful run on her Wendy Williams show, then you have to give him the credit because he was the one, the only one dealing with, it wasn't enough for her own child to witness her addiction. It wasn't enough to have him witness that and she changed because she didn't want to see her kid like that. Wendy has maintained what it is she wants to do. And it just caught up with her in the end. Once Kevin was eliminated from the equation. No, Kevin didn't do it right. No, he didn't do it right. I'm not saying that he was right in about what he's doing. He had an ulterior motive in that marriage because he wanted to keep that marriage going so he can get what he wanted at the end of the day, which is a better quality of life and the money that yielded out of it. It just didn't work out for him the way he thought. He thought he thinks right now that he should be paid and he should get more than what he's gotten. But you made some decisions that prevents you from being compensated for all the effort you put into bringing Wendy forward on her show. You took money from her and gave to this other woman. You chose to stay in a marriage that wasn't working, that you would have abandoned long ago had it not been in your best interest to perpetuate the success of the show. You were getting benefits, financial benefits from Wendy getting up every day after you done poked and prodded her out of her addiction to go and do a show that she was obligated to do. Wendy couldn't have did it on her own. No, she can't. With a full-fledged addiction. She would have been using all night into the next day, into the next day, into the next day. She wouldn't have never just cut herself off and then went to work and be able to function. Had it not from Kevin, I believe when he said he had to get home and make sure she didn't get too far gone, whereas she couldn't show up the next day and do what she needed to do. I believe that. If you know what about addiction, if you know what, I mean, we got family members that's in addiction. I don't need to tell you how difficult that is to watch, let alone be a part of. Yes, he did it wrong. You know, he should have divorced Wendy and went on about his business or made some agreement where he still had the leverage to help her in her career. But the only leverage he had was a certificate that said that they were married. And he had to exert negative influence over her to get her to do what she wanted, to tear her away from the one thing that she loved more than anything in this world, which is her drugs and alcohol. Again, I would impress upon you to look at the fact that her son, her own son, living in the house with her wasn't enough for her to stop using. She went to rehab a couple of times, probably more than what we know about, during the course of her addiction. It's just sad the way things ended up. But Kevin did his part. Wendy did her part. So it's two sides to a coin. We just can't put it all on Wendy because she looked like she got the bad end of the stick. No, she didn't, because she got money in the bank. Kevin don't. She wouldn't have been as successful had it not been for Kevin pushing her. And he had his own reasons for why he was pushing her. Yes, he did. It made him look bad that he stayed in the marriage to perpetuate this successful career for Wendy and family, including himself. But at the same time, he looks bad because he got this woman pregnant. He moved her in the community. He didn't do all this without Wendy knowing it. He didn't. The only thing that really was the cutting edge was the baby. Okay, Wendy knew about the cheating. She knew about Sarita Hudson. He knew all about that. She said, just don't bring no baby in this equation, because then I look stupid. And then people know beyond any shadow of a doubt that you're cheating or that you have another relationship outside of ours. There was a certain facade, okay, that addicts like to present. They don't want people to know it's as bad as what they, what it really is. They want to present this image that she's keeping it together, and Kevin is not in control of what it is that she's doing and the success that she has. And he went with that for a while. But now he's crying wolf because it didn't work out the way he wanted it to. They end up outsmarting him and pushing him out. But he knows the truth. We should use our rational, logical thinking mind. He was dealing with an addict. They sporadic, they lie, they manipulate, they're deceitful in what it is they're doing when they're in full-fledged addiction. They want to hide it, but they also want to maintain it until they are ready. You seen once Kevin was eliminated from the equation, that show went totally down. Wendy went totally down. She's walking in a daze because she can't control her addiction. She don't have a Kevin no more. Reminding her and pushing her, saying, hey, look, you got an obligation every day. You got to show up and you got to show out. You don't have the luxury of laying around here getting high day in and day out. You try managing an addict. So yes, I just wanted to jump on here to shed some light on how it is to work with someone that is addictive. Yes, her first marriage, she was very open about it. She blamed it on her addiction and the fact that she didn't want to have nothing to do with her husband. All she wanted to do is lock herself in the room and use. Kevin kicked that door in and be like, look, you need to get up and go to work. Okay. At this time, she was on the radio show with this first marriage, and she was breaking into the business and all of that, you know, and she had some rough starts in the beginning. It just didn't fall together the way it did until she started dealing with Kevin in radio. Yeah, she had bouts of sanity, bouts of sobriety, but nothing significant in the way that Kevin brought to the table. The show has a lot of longevity. You know, it has a lot of successes. You know, Wendy was her best self with Kevin professionally. But we see personally the kind of control she has over herself, which is non-existent. It's not going to be until Wendy decides to get her life together and stop using. She's her best self when she's not using. But we see how she is when she is using. She loses everything. She lost everything. The bank had to take charge of her money because she is so fragile in her addiction that she's vulnerable to be taken advantage of. Yeah, we can't forget about that first marriage. But Kevin had heart. Kevin had the wherewithal to realize that he's sitting on a gold mine. And the only way he's going to live a better quality of life is if he get her together. It might not have been the best way to do it, but hey, it was the only way to do it. Because an addict ain't listening to no reason. He took the rap. But in the end, it didn't work out for him. Wendy had people around her that protected her. But she let them down in the end because she chose her addiction over her job. Wendy wasn't ready to let that talk show go. She had to let it go because she couldn't control her addiction. So that's all I'm gonna say on that. Like, share, and subscribe. Please subscribe, y'all. Subscribe and like the videos because it makes the difference in the algorithm. It makes the difference in me being monetized, so I can bring some flair, some bells and whistles to our time together. You know. With that, I'm gonna say bye.